All right, as people come in to the meeting. Hi, Charlotte. Can you guys hear me okay? Hi, Clara. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll wait one more minute. There'll be a few more people joining, and then I'll share my screen and we'll get started. I hope everybody's doing okay today. A lot of things going on in the world. I gotta turn off my phone. Airplane mode that. All right. All right, so there's a chat box. If you have it not done, I'm sure everybody's like well versed at Zoom by now. If you weren't, you are now probably. So there's a chat button. So please just ask me questions as I go, and we will. I'll answer them. I've spent probably over 40 hours researching the CARES Act and learning all about it, and connecting with attorneys and accountants and other business owners. So I'm feeling pretty confident in what I have to say. And having said that, even though I do feel confident in what I have to say, it could change tomorrow because they're still trying to figure it out. And that's one of the things that they're sharing with us is that, great, this is what we know so far. And tomorrow it could be different just based on the guidelines and what they're doing. So thank you all for joining me. And I am going to work on sharing my screen here. All right. People are still coming into the meeting. All right. So welcome. My name is Jamie, and I am a business owner. I've been a business owner for 11 years in Santa Cruz, California. And I also do business consulting. And when this all started, I thought, okay, how can I be helpful? Because people started to ask me about the CARES Act and what's going on. And so I thought, okay, what can I do? Well, I decided to do a webinar because people just didn't really know what was happening. So, all right, we're gonna get started. All right, so number one, there's a lot of information out there, and I'm gonna talk, if I'm talking too fast, please just let me know. And I will have, this is being recorded, so I'm gonna have it recorded up on my website. So I have two websites, santacruzcore.com, which we're, by the way, offering free workouts and one-on-one sessions. So please take advantage of that. We wanna keep you healthy. And then jamiejansen.com will be where I'll have this webinar, and you'll probably wanna look at it again. So a lot of people are watching the news. I'm reading the New York Times and the Washington Post and trying to get news that is hopefully honest and not totally blown out of proportion. And so I paid attention somewhat. I would like to say that I was informed, but now I am hyper vigilant and hyper informed, and it can cause a lot of stress. So that's why this slide's number one. So if we could just all take a deep breath, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. We got to come from a place of calmness so that we can really allow the creativity to flow. For me, we're still open for acupuncture and chiropractic. There's next to no one coming in, and we're doing online training, and our revenues dropped 90%. So it can be pretty stressful. So take another deep breath in. And then also being grateful. When I'm grateful, I can have my mind and heart expanded, and it really helps me to function better. All right. All right, so this webinar is going to be about the CARES Act and also my suggestions and recommendations based on what I know and what I've heard. And so we're going to get into the CARES Act, but before we do, we're going to talk about some things that you can do immediately before you even apply for a loan. So if you have any outstanding loans or debt, you want to contact your bank and your credit card companies. For a lot of credit card companies, there's no payment due, but what you want to do with the credit card companies is you have to call them. You can't just say, you can't just assume that they're going to not charge you interest or anything like that. I have a balance on one of my credit cards, and what they're saying is I do have a balance due still, obviously, and the interest will still accrue. So what I've decided to do is call all my companies, the ones that I have a couple with a balance due. So I called them and I said, I have an economic hardship. And they said, no problem. You don't have to pay for 3 months, but interest will still accrue. Then what I said was, okay, can you please get the interest down for me? What can you do? So one card, they dropped it 1.5%. So I've been fortunate enough to have really good credit, or have had really good credit. So I have a decent amount of credit cards with no balance. So what I'm going to do on those cards is if you have any credit cards with no balance, you can call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about using this card. Can you give me 0%? If they can give you 0%, then you have a backup, and you have, and ask for 0% for how long. And that way you have an ability to use those cards if and when you need it. So I have a balance on one card. They're only willing to drop my percentage by 1 percentage point. So I'm going to call my credit card companies, see if anybody will do a zero balance. If they'll do a zero balance, then what I'll do is I will transfer that money. So that's something that you can absolutely do to try and limit your risk and the amount of money you're putting out. If you haven't already, email your landlord. The state has required, okay, I'm talking about California. So the state of California has required that no evictions happen, commercial or residential, until May 31st. So go ahead and email your landlord and let them know that you're having an economic hardship. Everyone in California knows this because everybody's in shelter in place. And same thing with mortgage lenders. Again, you can't assume that just because everyone knows there's a disaster that you're going to be able to get any abatement or forbearance. You have to actually reach out to them. Mortgage lenders, the lines are very, very long on the telephone. I've been on the phone. I've called my mortgage lender 3 times. The first time they said, okay, you have 3 months and then you'll have to pay a balloon payment at the end. The second time I called, they said, actually, I didn't call the second time. They called me and they said, okay, you have 6 months. And the third time I called, they said, you have 6 months. It could be up to a year where you don't have to pay your mortgage. And at the end, right before you have to pay, you should just call and let us know and we'll figure something out, because there's over 3.3 million people. That's an underreported number of people who are unemployed. And many of those people are homeowners. So back in 2008, when we had the last recession, there was a lot of people who may have lost their homes and did short sales. This is going to be much worse if the government doesn't do something. And so I'm anticipating, because things are changing, don't quote me on this, but I'm anticipating that what will happen is by the time that 6 months is up, I'm going to go back to my bank and I'm going to say, hey, I don't have $30,000 to give you for my mortgage for the last 6 months because I haven't been working. And they're going to say, okay, let's add it to the end of your loan. They're not going to kick everybody out. So those are things that you can do right away to help put off some of the bills that you are going to owe. Okay, if you do have employees, one of the things that I strongly recommend is stay connected with them. Send an email, let them know that you are the fearless leader that you are, and that you are doing something for them and for the company so they have something to come back to. This is super important. If you're feeling like you're unaware and you don't know what's going on, imagine how they feel, all right? So I've done a live Zoom webinar for them. I've told them everything that I'm doing and then given them some resources, and I'm going to share them with you right now. So you got to decide if you need them. If you do need them and you want to have them work part-time, they can still collect unemployment. If they're working the same, then they're working the same, and that's great. This isn't affecting you as much. So you have to decide what is the stuff that is in your business that you need to now take care of, and what is the stuff that you can take care of, and then you can lay them off. If you lay them off or furlough them, they can then collect unemployment at 100%. And then also, like I said, share the resources that you have so that they feel supported, because a lot of people, the feedback I've gotten is that people haven't realized how long-term this is going to be. And so they haven't really done anything yet, or they're able to make their rent for April. So they're not so worried. The thing is that right now the shelter in place is until May. School's not going back in session for kids until August. And Canada just decided that they're not going to be doing anything until June as far as like lifting the shelter in place. So who knows what our government's going to do, but just know that the news was saying that April 24th is when Santa Cruz is going to be like at the peak state for having the most cases. Who knows if that will be true? But that's the anticipation. So then it'll be 3 weeks after that, at which we can then like see the curve start to drop. So we'll see how that affects us. So just know that just because you might have money in April doesn't mean that that will be the case in May and June. So that's why I'm giving you all these resources. Okay, so for employees, you need to figure out if you can afford them, and also if you don't have any employees, don't worry, we'll get out of this and we'll go into what's going to be applicable to you. So there is something called a Family Medical Leave Act that was just passed along with the CARES Act, and so you want to look at that. I believe it's like 12 weeks paid. I think that if you don't have to do it, this doesn't apply to you if you have less than 50 employees. So but just definitely look into it, check out if you have an HR person or a payroll person, they should be able to help you with this. And that's why a lot of people are letting go of their employees, because they don't want to be liable to pay the 12 weeks of sick leave. And sick leave is not just if your employee gets sick, it's if they have a kid that's not in school and so the person can't work, or it's if one of their family members is sick. So basically the employer has to pay 12 weeks of full pay. And so that's why a lot of people are probably got laid off Tuesday, because April 1st, this went into effect. Also keep in mind the states are underreporting unemployment. So if you're thinking, oh, well, there's only 3 million people and there's like 370 million people in the United States, don't worry, that number is probably double or triple what it was reported. If you are an essential business, like we're considered an essential business because we do chiropractic, we have a physician, and we have an acupuncturist. And you're permitted to stay open, but you have an economic loss to mitigate the damages. Because some people are like, well, I'm still open, so can I apply for the CARES Act, or can I get these loans or grants? And the answer is yes, if you have economic hardship. So basically we're still open, but we might have 1 or 2 appointments a day, and we're letting people in one at a time. We usually have 6 appointments at once. So definitely have had economic loss. Another example would be you not being able to find replacement employees, or loss of business because people didn't want to come in, which is what a lot of people are experiencing. Okay, I really suggest you stay organized. Here's an example of a spreadsheet. So PG&E is the electric company. What my debit date is, about how much it charges. I get it charged monthly. Can I suspend it? Nope, but I did call them. And then there's an email, and then what was the action taken? So for PG&E, there's 2 programs called the CARE and FARA program, and they allow discounts. Let's see, someone's asking me a question. Okay, you're getting it backwards, Jen, thanks. So the 12 weeks pay, if it's a company of 50 or less, no, it's a company of more than 50 employees, and it's only if they're sick. So I would double check that. I didn't do as much research on that, because as soon as I read that it was 50 employees, I have 2 companies, a medical company and then an admin company, and combined they're 50, but they're only 25 each. So it didn't apply to me. So I was like, whew, thank goodness I don't have to worry about that. So I can still have people working less than full-time and be okay with it. So yes, if you have less than 50 employees, I'm pretty sure it doesn't apply to you. Good question. Okay, so make your spreadsheet. Comcast, cell phone, credit card companies, if you have an Audible account, or if you have a Netflix account, all of your bills, please put them here. That's going to be super important, because then you can keep track of who's saying what to you when. So for example, I have a mortgage, and so I put that on my list here. They had a mortgage, and then I had 3 months or 6 months to handle it, and then my next payment would be in July. And then I have the phone number of who I was going to call, and make sure that anyone that you get some type of abatement, you want everything in writing, so that you just want everything in writing. Okay. Suggestions. So this is for you, but this is also for if you have staff. I really, really, really recommend you share this information, because I know it's been oversaid, but we are all in this together. Last year I had a huge dramatic shift in my business, where we took in $1 million less than we did the year before, because of an insurance challenge that we had, a contract change. And I was all alone, and it was so scary, and it was so hard, and I had depression, and it was such a challenge. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because that experience, like looking back, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that experience, because it allowed me to be more sane during this time. Not everyone gets to have those experiences, but draw on your previous experience and how that can help you and build you up and help you to be strong for yourself and for others. If you are a business owner, you're a leader. And so as a leader, even if you don't want to be, you got to show up for people. All right, and that can actually keep you going. Okay, so a rent abatement letter, that's basically a letter that if you haven't already, you need to send to your landlord for your commercial real estate or your housing. So what I did was I had a rent abatement letter and I shared it with, and I can actually put this on my website. So my website is jamiejansen.com, and I'll have it again at the end and I'll put it up. Again, it has to be modified for you specifically, so don't just cut and paste it, but it'll give you a great outline. So this letter basically, I said, I'm, due to what's going on, I'm not able to pay. So I was able to get my rent abated. Now that doesn't mean I don't have to pay it, but it just means that I don't have to pay it now and I'm not going to get any penalties for it. So send that to all of your staff who are renting. A lot of people in Santa Cruz in the service industry, some of them are not making even a living wage, even if they are working. So they are really kind of, not saving. So you really want to make sure that you provide these resources to your staff. Utilities. If you go to Comcast or Xfinity or any of your, it doesn't matter what your internet provider is, just call them and go to the retention center. So if you go to the retention center, it's basically they're trying to retain you. So what you say is, I can't afford to keep paying Comcast, and then they will credit you back for a month. You can do it the next month and the next month if you need to. Phone provider, do the same thing. They will not turn your Comcast off because everyone who is a student has to use it. So they won't turn it off, but the bill will still accrue. So call them and get that credit. Second Harvest Food Bank is a local food bank, and they have drop-offs all over the county and also in Watsonville. I think it's on Friday. They're having like a drive-through at the Watsonville Fairgrounds. So take advantage of that or share it with somebody who needs to take advantage of that. Get calfresh.org. That is food stamps. Again, there's we pay taxes to be able to have these abilities to do this. If it applies to you, please take advantage of it to help to ease your stress. So one of the things that you want to know about CalFresh is that they'll pay anywhere from $15 to $355. If you have any income, you're not going to get the full amount. And let's say you have an income of $1,000 and your mortgage is $3,500. Well, they're only going to allow you to have an expense of $500. So if you say that you have an income of $1,000 and your expense is $3,500, they're going to read that as you have income of $1,000 and your expense is $500, because that's all, or $559. That's all that they allow. So then the amount of money that you're going to get in an EBT or a debit, it basically looks like a debit card, will be less than $355. And it depends on how many people you're feeding in your household. And then the money's basically loaded onto the card once a month. Okay. As soon as your income changes, then you would contact them and make adjustments. PG&E, there's the CARE and the FARA program. You go onto their website. You can also do it by phone and just do the touch tone thing. It's based on your income, and it should show up on your next bill. I did this program and I didn't get an acknowledgement that I did get an acknowledgement that I got it, but I didn't get an acknowledgement of how much I would save. One of my employees, they saved 30% off their bill, but that's pretty significant. So that's cool. Okay. State and federal income tax. The good thing is that it is penalty free for an extension until July 15th. So normally this is what is due on April 15th. Now you don't have any amount due until July 15th, and you don't have to file until July 15th, and you won't have any penalty. Payroll tax, they are doing exemptions on payroll tax as far as pushing the date out as well. But that payroll tax, that's due no matter what. It's not based on how much money you made. It's based on the employees. So if you can afford it, pay for it. Don't not pay for it. I would not wait on that. Okay, if you're not muted, please mute yourself. California. Yeah. So if it depends. I don't know if you file quarterly or corporate tax quarterly or annually. So corporate tax is not the same as payroll tax, I believe. Again, I'm not an accountant and I don't 100% know that to be true, but payroll tax is when you have somebody working and they're making $15 an hour, and then you have to pay 10% of that amount or 15% of that amount or 7.5%, whatever it is, to the government every 2 weeks when you do your payroll. So yeah, corporate tax is not payroll tax. So the corporate tax though, you do have an extension. The payroll tax, you also have an extension, but I would not do that because that's not our money. That is the government's. Okay. Whereas your state and federal tax is based on your income. So corporate tax is also based on your income, I believe. Okay, so that's the EDD's offering extensions. Taxes will still be due, but delay paying it as long as you can. Also, you can file by July 15th, and if you don't have you can file an extension by July 15th, which then would give you until October, I believe, 15th. And again, that extension might change. We don't know yet. Again, things are so up in the air, and this is what we know so far. Oh, right, we're going to get into property tax. Thank you. I will tell you about that. Right, so that's what I meant about cell phone or the phone bill. Someone's talking about, let's go back. Okay, utilities. I put phone provider. I haven't called them yet, so I couldn't tell you what they were what they would say, but absolutely. The thing is that they're businesses, so they don't want to give you anything for free, even though they're telling you that they're going to be understanding. You have to advocate for yourself, and you have to say, I need this, I want this, help me out. So you have to, call. There's nothing that can, it cannot hurt anything, just call. They will not turn off your phone or they won't turn off your internet because of all the kids at home, and they realize that people have economic hardship, so they're not going to turn it off, but the bill will still accrue, which is why you really want to see if you can lower that bill. Okay, here you go, property tax, Teresa. So I turned this in yesterday. You can go to, of course it says clicking here. I'll have to, I'll get you that form, but there is a county, and again, this will be on my website, tax form. This is due, I believe, April 10th, or it's very soon. So what you need to do is, or maybe it's April 6th, you need to fill out the form and send it in, and then they will write you back. I don't think they're even looking at anything for a couple of days, but send it in. I sent it in by mail, and the tax is still due and in place, but they won't charge you a late fee. So because I can't pay my mortgage, I think that it automatically pays my property tax, and they're gonna waive it, sounds like. Okay, good questions. You guys keep them coming. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the meat of the CARES Act. So this was established the 27th of March, so it's very, very new. I have read it, it's 800 pages. I have not read anywhere close to 800 pages, but I've read the part that applies to us mostly. If you look at it, there's memes on the internet that say like, oh, look at how much we're getting, $350 billion. Like that sounds like a lot, but it's really, it's for small businesses, but it's really a fraction. And there's a lot of big corporations that are making out like bandits with this as well. Welcome to capitalism. All right, so the programs and initiatives in the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So that's why it's called the CARES Act. That was just passed by Congress. It's intended to assist business owners with whatever needs they have right now. All right, so let's go into it. So the key points, there's such a thing as something called pandemic unemployment coverage, which applies to most everyone. There's the economic injury disaster loan. There's the paycheck protection plan. And then there's also the FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act. So those all apply. I'm not going to talk about the FMLA because it applies to bigger businesses, and and because it doesn't apply to me, I didn't do as much research. Okay. Pandemic unemployment coverage. We're going to talk about that in a second. Okay. Yeah, I was going to try and mute people and I didn't. Let's see. Okay, cool, thanks. All right, so the people who are self-employed, people who are sole proprietors, people who are business owners may never have collected unemployment before in their life. So when this came out, people were like, can I collect unemployment? Someone asked me yesterday, if I work under the table and have worked under the table, can I collect unemployment? You can try, but you have no proof that you had a job before if you're working under the table. So if you were a business owner that paid taxes and were a business owner that filed as a sole proprietor or even as a corporation, because you got paid from your corporation, you absolutely can file unemployment. So the pandemic unemployment coverage is new as of Friday, and it allows for $600 on top of any unemployment, $600 a week. So you would do that. You would apply for that through the EDD. So the edd.ca.gov, I believe is what it is. Okay, so who can file it? Anyone who is unable to work or has a loss of hours due to the COVID-19. So a gig worker, an independent contractor, or a self-employed person. Now, I also do Airbnb. So I'm going to talk about that because you might have rental income. So my rental income went from, $4,000 a month to zero, maybe $500. And a few things for Airbnb, what they're doing is, one, they're going to be supplying grants, which we'll get into later. The other thing that they're doing is they're paying 25% of any of the bookings that were canceled between March 15th and I think May 1st. The other thing that the reason why I also bring it up is because you are considered one of these people, a self-employed person, a gig worker, or an independent contractor, and you can also file unemployment. Not only can you file unemployment, but you can also file for some of those acts that are the loans and stuff that we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, for the pandemic unemployment, what is different about it is usually regular unemployment lasts for 26 weeks at the most. This is 39 weeks, so it's 13 weeks longer. It also gives you that $600 on top of any unemployment insurance. So if you're self-employed, I'm not sure what they're going to do if you're self-employed is they're going to look at your IRS tax filings. So most of us, maybe some of you already filed 2019. I did not file 2019 yet, and I will be waiting until the end of July or middle of July to do that. But if you did file 2019, they'll look at that, or they'll look at 2018. So they'll look at that and they'll say, okay, how much are we going to give you? So if you made $200,000, if you made $100,000, the most that you can get in unemployment is $450 a week. So most of your employees will have not gotten $450. They'll probably get like $200 a week. So if they get $200 a week for regular unemployment, plus they get the pandemic unemployment. So if people are applying for unemployment insurance, they will get the pandemic unemployment. So if you think about it, let's say your employee is getting $200 plus $600 is $800 a week. So 8 times 4 is 3,200. That may be more than they made actually when working for you. This only lasts for 39 weeks. And the other things I'm going to talk about is how they're really encouraging us to rehire people. But someone did mention yesterday that it might be hard if they're getting paid more on unemployment than not. But ultimately, everybody, I think, wants to work, and this is a temporary thing. The other thing that is happening is a $1,200 stimulus. That's a $1,200 check. I don't know a whole lot about that other than everybody I believe will be getting one, except if you made under $75,000, you'll be getting a stimulus check. Yeah, and $500 a child, and this is per person. If you made $100,000, you'll get a stimulus check, but it'll be less. They're decreasing at 5%. So what is your filed married? Do they look at both? Yes, they'll look at both incomes. No, Teresa. You do not have to file federal taxes by April 15th. I don't know, unless giving you the website, but I've double and triple checked that. You don't have to file. That the extension for federal taxes is July 15th. You don't have to file and you don't have to pay. Yes, there's a calculator available to determine unemployment benefits. You can go to edd.ca.gov and you can find it. If you're self-employed though, we need to talk about that. So hold on. What year are they using for the tax stimulus plans? I believe it's 2018. I made more money in 2018 than I did in 2019, so I may not be eligible for the stimulus check. You don't have to apply. They're getting it ready. There's nothing to apply for the stimulus check. They're looking at everyone's income, and then they'll be sending it out. And if and I don't know when they're going to send it out. Everything takes 2 to 3 weeks, which is why I said stop the bleeding and hoard your cash, because you don't know how long this is going to take. There's millions of people in this boat and we're all in line. Okay. Yeah. So it's 2018 because not everyone's filed 2019. So honestly, I think that's a really great thing, just because then it just like puts that filing 2019, like take it off the table for right now. Okay. So self-employed is based on your previous taxes. And then it does take 2 to 3 weeks to get a check. And they also interview you. So what's really screwy is that if you are self-employed and you go to the EDD website, you're like, wow, this doesn't apply to me. So they haven't actually changed the law on their website, which is super discouraging if you are unemployed and you're self-employed, because you're like, this doesn't apply to me. So what you need to do is just go and file the unemployment insurance and just follow all the prompts. Just keep following all the prompts, and not until you get like 3/4 of the way into the application does it say anything about unemployment and for self-employed people or independent contractors. Also, what's really not cool is on the EDD website, it says, do you think that you were misclassified as an independent contractor? Report the small business here. And it's like, really? That's so messed up. So if you still are running independent contractors, there was a law that passed a couple of years ago that really just basically made it so that you shouldn't be having independent contractors. If that is you, just be aware that that is on the EDD website. If somebody is an independent contractor and does the same business that you do, like for example, I'm a wellness center and we do massage. If I independently contracted somebody as a massage therapist, that would be misclassification. They should be an employee because I can't contract out something that I'm advertising. So for example, I could independently contract a graphic artist to do my marketing because that's not what I do to create revenue. Or I can independently contract an accountant or a bookkeeper, but I couldn't independently contract the things that I normally do to create revenue, like massage or personal training. But again, there's a lot of people in this, and that's a whole nother conversation about independent contractor employee, but just keep in mind that that is out there. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into the loans. Any questions about, just put any questions that you have about unemployment up at the top, and I'll get to them if you have them. It's per person actually, but so like a family could get 1,200 times 2, which would be 2,400 plus 500 if you had a kid. So that's whatever, 3,100. I'm sorry, I can't do math. 2,900. So yeah, it's 1,200 per adult, and again, depending on what you made, and then so it'd be 150,000 if you were married filing jointly, 75 each. You have your own business and a part-time job. How would I handle my unemployment application then? Okay, that's a really great question. So if you have your own business, basically the way that it asks like, are you working or not? And so I have 2 jobs too. I run my own business and I also do Airbnb as a sole proprietor. So I said that I had, because you can get unemployment even if you have partial hours. Like even if you got your hours cut, you can still get unemployment. So if your hours got cut, you would just say like, I'm not able to work, or my hours were affected. The unemployment application, well, it really depends on you and how fast you are with the computer and everything, but probably like 30 minutes. So what I've been offering people is I haven't sat anyone through that, but I'm going to go through this PowerPoint. I'll keep going. And then if people, you can email me directly, or you can set up a 30-minute consultation. The 30-minute consultations, I'm not charging for them. The way that you can help me out is to, like and follow me on Instagram and Facebook and give me a good review. I'm really, we're all in this together. I know it's been oversaid, but it's so true. And we're only as strong as our community. And I want to be able to be a resource for as many people as I can, because I really love to share, and you feeling good makes me feel good. All right, so let's get into the loans. So we have the PPP, which is the payment protection package. And then you have the economic disaster injury loan, EIDL and PPP. Okay. So PPP is a 7A loan, and basically, again, brand new to the CARES Act. The economic disaster loan has been around prior to the CARES Act. This loan, the PPP loan, is unique to the CARES Act. So I'm just going to make sure everyone's muted. It says everyone's muted, but yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay. So this is given to you by the 7A PPP loan is given to you by a lender that's local. So US Bank, you want to write these down. US Bank, Santa Cruz County Bank, Wells Fargo, Chase. I went into Wells Fargo and Chase on Monday as soon as it's passed to be like, okay, I'm ready to do this. And you know what they said? We don't know anything about it. So I'm finding that I know more than a lot of the banks because I'm reading, and it's going from the top down. So corporate banks have to then give the information, and they're still trying to figure out like what the loan application process is. So that's why it looks like I know more than them at this point. With the PPP loan, the Santa Cruz County Bank has a pre-application on their website. I'm not a bank. I don't bank with them, but they have a pre-application, and so does US Bank. So those are the two places that I would, that I would look at to fill out. It just basically gets you in the queue. Okay, so the maximum amount that you can make is ask for is 10 million. For the PPP loan, for the economic disaster relief loan, it's 2 million. What is forgivable? You don't get anything forgiven on the economic disaster relief loan. On the PPP loan, you can get 100% of it forgiven. Just depends on a lot of things, but you can have up to 100% of it forgiven. So these loans apply to you if you are a sole proprietor, if you're a corporation, if you're an independent contractor, these loans apply to you. If you're a gig worker, they apply to you. You just have to have been in business as of February 15th, 2020. Okay, after you forgive as much as you can, then on the rest, there would be an interest rate here of 4%. Here, it's a little bit better, it's 3.75%. There are no fees, no bank fees, which is great. Usually there are like origination fees and things like that. LLC is a limited liability company. And yes, you can get these loans. Okay, the term for the PPP loan is 10 years, which means that you have 10 years to pay it back, and then 30 years here. There's no prepayment penalty, which means you can pay it back before that. And the first payment is not due for 6 months to a year or on the 5th month for the disaster loan. What's great about these loans is that the PPP loan is unsecured, which means you don't have to do a promise, a personal guarantee. So on a lot of loans, they'll ask you for a personal guarantee, and a personal guarantee is something where you're like, yeah, I have collateral, I have like my house I can put on the line. These loans do not require any of those things, which is incredible. These are great loans. So you have no personal guarantee. You're getting the money, you're borrowing the money, and in this loan, you can get up to 100% of it forgiven, which is even better. This loan, the disaster loan, if you get the loan for $200,000 or less, there's no personal guarantee. If you need over $200,000, there is a personal guarantee. And that's what they're saying. Available collateral will be considered. Again, this is the most, 500,000 people applied for the disaster loan over the weekend in 2 days. So I applied for the loan like 2 weeks ago, and it took me 6 hours to apply for the disaster relief loan. They're realizing, so as somebody who's like one of the first people doing it, they're realizing that that's a pain in the butt and no one's going to do that. And so now if you go on and you do a disaster loan, it takes you 15 minutes. So the good thing is that because there's so many people who are struggling, what that's doing is that's creating a streamlined process. So you're able to get the money faster and easier. So that's, again, why it's good that we're all in this boat together. Yes, they do apply to nonprofits. Absolutely. So let's say you work at a church or you run a church, you can definitely get them. And there's questions about that in here as well, or not even a church, just another nonprofit. Good questions, you guys. Okay. No guarantees. I already talked about that. Owners of 20% or more, let's say. So my medical company, for example, there's two 50% owners, a 51% owner and a 49% owner. They will need to guarantee the disaster loan if it is over $200,000. But currently I haven't applied. I have applied, but when you apply, they don't ask you how much money that you want to take. So you know, if I get less than $200,000, I won't have to do a personal guarantee. The reason why this is so great is, let's say, heaven forbid, you take out a loan for $150,000, $200,000, because you're like, okay, that's the amount of money that I need to be able to get through this. And I don't know what's going to happen. There's pretty much definitely going to be a recession. There's a statistic that I don't like to share, but I will, and it's not to scare you, but I'm going to tell you, I like to go to worst case scenario. If I can go to worst case scenario, what that does is it allows me to see, like, kind of sit in that and then be able to proceed, so I don't get paralyzed and I'm not afraid. So this is what I did. Let's say you take out a loan for $150,000. The statistic is that 40% of the businesses that are being affected, small businesses, 40% of small businesses that are affected by this will go out of business. 40% of this. Okay, let me start over. Of the people who are in business that are small businesses, 40% of them will make it a year. Of the 40% that make it a year as a result of this, 25% will make it past a year. So it's a very small number of people who are that they're saying will be successful out of this. I'm all about beating all the odds. And if you're educated and if you're smart, you can do that. But the reason why I bring this up is, let's say, again, heaven forbid, we're in that boat. So I had to go to my worst case scenario. Let's say my business collapses and I don't make it, and I took out a $200,000 loan. Well, anything under $200,000 loans for the disaster loan, there's no personal guarantee. So if I have a corporation and I took out this loan and I'm unable to pay it back, then the corporation goes belly up and I'm not personally responsible, which is really great. So it kind of lets you off the hook in the event shit were to hit the fan. Pardon my French. So same. I'm not sure about your question about what about an LLC. LLCs can absolutely apply for these loans. And like I said, there's no personal guarantee on the loans, up to $200,000 for the disaster loan and up to $10 million for the PPP loan. There's no personal guarantee, which means you're not liable, which means what you could do is you could absolutely get this money, and then, you know, if something were to happen, you would not be liable, which is awesome. Okay, so what can the money go for? The disaster loan is for economic loss by this pandemic, and that could be in all the things that the PPP loan also, like it could be payroll, rent, and all that stuff. The PPP loan is specific, though. It's specific to payroll support, mortgage payments, rent, utilities, insurance, and other debt payments incurred before 2/15/2020 and after. So this should have said not. This was confusing yesterday. So basically, if you have debt from before 2/15/2020, which a lot of people do because, like, you're stopping working or closing your business, you can use this loan to pay back some of that money. Okay, so who funds the process? Any 7A lender. So you can go to the SBA.gov website and you can see who a 7A lender is. Wells Fargo, Chase, a lot of big banks. They may actually have more knowledge, but at this time I found Santa Cruz County Bank has more information than the bigger banks. A line of credit would be a debt payment, absolutely. They have also, if you go to SBA.gov, they have like debt forgiveness programs. So you can actually take your, like, if you have a line of credit, you can, you might be able to take these loans out to help pay that down. Will it be forgiven? Probably not. Okay. So notice here, 7A lenders, and it's not available till Friday. This is currently available now. And like I said, over 500,000 people, probably over 1 million people have applied for this loan. So it's just get in line as soon as you can. Who's eligible? Independent contractors, sole proprietors, nonprofits, businesses with less than 500 employees. Great question. They do talk about, go to SBA.gov. It does talk about that, but also call the people that you have the debt with. They will probably not make you pay for a little while. So you need to work with them. Call your debtor people immediately. Okay, forgiveness. This is the key right here. What does that mean? That you don't have to pay back part of your loan or all of your loan. So for the PPP loan, that's what's so cool about this loan, is that as long as 75% is spent on payroll within the 8 weeks of the origination date, 25% on utilities, lease payments, etc. So for example, let's say April 1st, I get a loan for the PPP loan, I get the loan. I can use that money back to February 20th, and I can pay things that I've already paid. I can like use that money to pay myself back for things I've already paid out, and that could be forgiven. Also, you can't, there's another rule here that I didn't put down, which is you cannot have laid off like a ton of your workforce. So the whole thing about the PPP loan is that they want you to, if you have laid them off, you can rehire them, and this loan will pay for their wages for 8 weeks, basically. So it really encourages people to get off unemployment and to go back to work. Now that's hard if the pandemic goes longer. So for example, in Santa Cruz, the shelter in place is going till May 1st, and it probably will go longer. So if I get a loan in April, like let's say I got the loan today, it would be kind of hard for me to put everyone back to work. So I think there'll probably be some modifications to this depending on how long the pandemic goes for. Yeah, so the PPP loan can be used to help keep up with payments, utilities, lease payments, etc. But you can use it for anything. But if you want forgiveness, it has to be very specific, and there are rules around forgiveness. So you can use these loans, to pay your rent, to go on a vacation, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to pay that back. So for forgiveness, it's very specific to be able to get the loan forgiven. So lease payments, utilities, I think it might be interest on payments, but not necessarily. It's not like you're not going to get forgiveness for debt consolidation. That's not going to happen. Right. They can't go back to work if business is not essential, which is why it's really screwed up. However, Clara, this is one thing. So that's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, great. So I have a forgiveness plan, but what you can go potty. Thanks for asking. So the 8 weeks, let's see here. Yeah, this loan is designed for people to quote unquote go back to work. If you get the loan and you can't have anyone go back to work because you're not essential, then you can't pay people. So then you can't actually have the right forgiveness. So April 3rd is when the loans applications will start. They have 12 business days from the 27th. So by April 14th, everybody has to have, or all the banks have to be ready to be able to supply information and give this loan, the PPP loan. And then it'll take a little while to get the money. So maybe by the end of April, you would have gotten this loan beginning of May, and then you can use that money to pay from February 15th, 2020 to 8 weeks from when you got that loan. So from February 2020 to, let's say if you got it May 1st, 8 weeks would be like end of June. So you could pay anything from before February, or from February 2020 to 8 weeks to June 30th, let's say. So again, it could change if the pandemic continues and people can't go back to work because you're not essential. They may make changes, but you can use the money and then it just can get rolled into the disaster loan, or you just pay it back at 4%, or you have a partial pay, like maybe some of the money is forgiven, some of it isn't, and then you can make payments on what's not forgiven. My suggestion, you take out as much as you can and you pay it back right away if you don't need the money, but you just have the money. A lot of times businesses fail because they just don't have the working capital, and this is an opportunity to get it really cheap. Okay, so the disaster loan, this is crucial. If you are an independent contractor, if you are self-employed. So I have a business, and I also am self-employed with, the Airbnb. So I actually applied for 2 loans for disaster relief so I could get this grant. So the grant is $10,000, so that you can do this right now. You can go on sba.gov, find the disaster relief loan, fill it out. It takes about 15 minutes. You do have to have some information about yourself and your business. And then it'll say, do you want fast money? And you're like, yes, I do. And you put in your bank account information. And then what you can do is wait. Even if you do not get accepted for the loan, you can get the grant and you won't have to pay it back. However, this $10,000 will be deducted from this amount of money. Okay. So how do they figure out how much you get? It's 2.5 times your payroll, or $10 million, whatever's less. And then this, I believe, is cost of goods sold times 5. All right. All right. So let's say you're self-employed. You want to get the PPP loan. That's great. Or let's say you have a company, but your CEO makes $250,000 a year. They will cap it. They will cap the amount to be forgiven at $100K per person annually. The forgivable amount may be reduced if you have to reduce the number of employees or the compensation of any employee. And it can help start paying for payroll starting at February 15th. And it's not taxable as gross income, which is super nice. Oh, and I was going to show you the sample application. Let's see, hold on. So this doesn't exist yet. This is just on the SBA website, and it's just a sample of what you need to fill out. So like you could be a nonprofit, a veteran, an independent contractor, self-employed. They ask you a bunch of questions about the business and how long it's been in business for. And it says, have you received this loan yet? If yes, please decide, put the details here. You can apply for both loans. You can take out both loans. They cannot be used for the same thing. So you can't use the PPP loan for payroll and the disaster loan for payroll. Okay. And then they ask you a bunch of questions about if you're a part owner, and then instructions, how to figure out what monthly payroll is. And I know I'm going really fast, but it's not a super long thing, but they will probably look at your credit as well. Okay. So in order to get this loan, you have to be in operation since February 15th, 2020. The loan is to be, somebody was saying that they were working under the table. Well, as of February this year, they could be on the books, and then they might be able to take out a loan. It's just not going to be very much because they wouldn't have very many records. All right. So let's go back to that. The loan is to be used for payroll, including rehire of recently laid off employees through June 30th, 2020. Interest due on mortgages can definitely be something that you can use the money for. Rent due on leases in place before 2/15. So if I just took out a lease, it wouldn't count. Utility services in place before 2020 as well. All right. So what's your payroll if you're a sole proprietor? So what you would do is if you filed taxes, then it would be how much money you made based on your Schedule C. So talk to an accountant or bookkeeper. And if you, so your profit would be what you paid the tax on. So like, let's say I'm a sole proprietor and I brought in $200,000. And then after my Schedule C and my 1040, I had to pay tax on $20,000. So my profit would have been $20,000. Okay. So what's great about these is that, like I said, there's no guarantee for the loan, no personal guarantee. This is the disaster loan, but that applies to the PPP loan. For this loan, the disaster loan, you have to be in business for 1 year. For the PPP loan, you don't. You can be in business for less. So usually with disaster loans, you have to show that you've tried to obtain credit elsewhere. With these loans, you don't have to do that. No double dipping. You can't use the money for this loan and the other loan. They can't be used for the same thing. There's expedited approval. And if you filled it out already before 3/30, you need to fill it out again to get the grant portion. For this loan, you have applications must be available by April 14th, and you can apply at approved lenders. So check your bank first. That's usually the best place to do it. I bank with Wells Fargo, and they didn't have anything a few days ago, and they still don't have anything. They will have something shortly, and every day it's changing. But I wanted to get in line, so that's why I filled out the stuff at Santa Cruz County Bank. Which, by the way, Lighthouse Bank and Santa Cruz County Bank, if you're in Santa Cruz, are merging if you didn't know that. That's just an interesting fact. Okay, so multiple companies are providing small grants for businesses. This is key. Take advantage of it, please. All right, so this is what we got. Anonymous Was a Woman, and the New York Foundation of the Arts. They're given $2,500 grants for people who are visual artists over the age of 40 in the United States. So some of these have not even opened yet. So take advantage. Vogue and CFDA, which is the Fashion Design Association. So those in the American fashion community, important date is April 8th. That's when the applications will be open, and you don't have to have been like a part of the association to get that grant. I read about all of these. Facebook, get on Facebook. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be giving $100 million in cash and ad spending to 30,000 businesses around the world in 30 different countries. The grant is not available yet, so just sign up so you can get the email list. This is a great way for them to get your email. Also, just so you know, if you are a small business owner, Facebook users, some people have been saying like, oh, Facebook isn't as popular as Instagram. Well, just so you know, 1.42 billion people were using Facebook at Q4 of 2019. Now, there are 2.6 billion people using it. All right, so we have the Opportunity Fund is another place that you can get a grant. James Beard Foundation, JP Morgan Chase. Yelp is doing something for restaurants and nightlife businesses only. So they're basically giving free advertising away, which is pretty cool. So check that out. Hello Alice is another one. I'm going to apply for that one. And then here's a bunch more. And Airbnb is doing a grant, but they haven't shared any information on it yet, other than they're going to do it. There's also websites that will help you sell gift cards and promote you. So for example, locally, go to the Chamber's websites. They're doing stuff to allow to share who's open and who's not and what they're offering online. Okay, so more than anything, you gotta pay attention to your health and your mindfulness. You gotta boost your immune system. And the way that you do that is by taking walks, exercising in your house, and meditating or just deep breathing. This can boost your immune system by over 50%. It'll also decrease stress and anxiety. It'll improve your cardiovascular system. And when you're kind to yourself, it does the same thing. These are so important because the disease that's happening and the virus that's going around is a cardiovascular, it causes cardiovascular problems. So it's viral pneumonia, and that's where people are having huge challenges. I'm not going to get into this so much because there's so much information out there, but fear sells. And so that's what is going on in the news. So please limit what you're watching and really pick some really honest news sources so that you're being informed, but you're not being overwhelmed. And then we are offering at my company, we're offering free group fitness, meditation, and exercise classes. And we're also doing virtual one-on-one. So now's the time for you. If you always wanted a trainer, we're not going to turn you away. You can pay whatever you want. We don't have a community without you. So it's super important that we all take care of each other. And this is what we're doing to help. We just want everyone to be healthy, because the healthier you are, the faster we can all have a big group hug. All right. Was this helpful? Are you interested in additional information? So what I'm going to be doing is I have your emails, and if you're interested, I will send you an email with some follow-ups, and then I'll let you know when I do another webinar. It'll probably be a couple weeks because things will probably change then, and I could actually do a webinar on like how to fill out the application. And if you want to learn more about what resources are available, I can add you to my email list. Yeah, absolutely. I will share. This will be on my website as well, jamiejansen.com. Please like me on Facebook and Instagram. That really helps me just be able to help more people. And this is my email. Contact me if you need anything. And that's my handle for Instagram and my website information. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. This is a lot. I want to just acknowledge your strength and your bravery in going through this. It's super scary, but it doesn't have to be, because we're all in it together. And yeah, you got to do something every day that makes you laugh. So my husband, Bo, and I and our dog are going to do a dance party later on Instagram just to lighten the mood. Yeah, and like I said, this will all be on line. But yeah, James Beard Foundation. Check them out, airtable.com. Yeah, it's a lot of information. And I'm Jen Taylor. What's your handle? I'll follow you. So it's at Jamie Jansen or at Santa Cruz CORE. My name's spelled kind of funny. Oh, cool. Mom of 18. Yeah. So help me out, review me, follow me. That's great. And yeah, I'm going to post this so that you can just have all the information and you can get it. I'll post my PowerPoint. Also, get on LinkedIn if you're not on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. That's how we're connecting. Yeah. I'll send an email out that's like, hey, follow me. And then you can, you guys can respond and give me your information and we can all build each other up, which is really cool. And just be kind to yourself, but really, really important to establish your routine. All right, any other questions? Yeah, this is recorded. All right, yeah, don't touch your face and clean your hands. All right, you guys, have a great one. We're gonna now go do a kids workout. I gotta get off. Bye. Go ahead.